Hello, my name is Joshua Ortiz Baco, and I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm also a graduate student in the University of Texas at Austin, specializing in Iberian and Latin American languages and cultures. I'm working in the Connecting Communities Digital Initiative in the Digital Strategy Directorate, which is part of the Office of the Chief Information Officer. Our group project during the summer was part of the Connecting Communities Digital Initiative, or CCDI, which is just getting up and running this summer. CCDI seeks to establish new pathways to the library for communities of color by facilitating access to digital collections and materials for creators in minority communities. One of the ways that CCDI seeks to accomplish the goal of increasing accessibility is through grants that will support digital collaborations with community colleges, minority serving institutions, and other cultural heritage organizations. Another component is a Scholar in Residence program that will fund scholars and artists to work with experts and materials in the library. Building on LC Lab's successful Innovator in Residence program, participants in CCDI will use innovative approaches to reinterpret digital collections in a way that centers the histories of people of color. The results of the program will be public-facing outcomes that can bring new audiences to the library and provide examples for how they can use the collections for their own projects. CCDI addresses various challenges that underserved communities have historically faced when exploring their histories as preserved in cultural heritage institutions like the library. Tackling these historic and contemporary challenges is crucial for correcting misconceptions that the library is not interested or meant for everyone in the US. At the heart of CCDI is the idea that there is a breadth of underexplored materials by and about Hispanic, Black, Indigenous, and Asian Americans in the library, but also that there should be much more. Communities that see themselves in these digital collections should be able to draw from them and complement their own work with cultural heritage materials, be it through their own teaching resources, community organizing, resource sharing, historical databases, or memory projects, to name a few examples. Even though CCDI is a new initiative, there are numerous examples of ways that the staff at the library have been thinking and working on how to reach minority audiences for years. And with or without support from the library, there have been groups engaging with digital collections to share undertold stories. Both the work going on within the library and the work happening outside of it can be instructive to CCDI's future collaborations with participants and staff. Our work, as Darshini will explain further, is to find and share those efforts.
Hello, my name is Darshini Patel, and I'm an undergrad at George Mason University studying government and data analysis. I'm working with Joshua on the CCDI project. In attempting to create our project's essential question to grapple with was, as CCDI is at its very beginning, what can Joshua and I contribute that could be easily built upon and would be useful to the project as it continues to evolve? CCDI attempts to fundamentally reimagine the ways in which the collections are being used in order to make them more accessible. The investigations Joshua and I conducted over the summer gathered some preliminary information that we hope will aid in achieving this goal. Our projects are twofold. We are trying to have a better understanding of A, the scope, and B, the methodology used when engaging with the Library of Congress materials for heritage preservation and storytelling by people who are within racial and ethnic minority communities. These two pieces, scope and method, answer two separate questions. By scope, I mean that we are trying to find examples in which communities of color have relied on library materials for heritage preservation. And by methodology, I mean that we are looking at what materials communities of color are using and how they are using these collections. Having an understanding of how organizations are collecting and imagining their own materials provides a baseline for CCDI to understand where collections are limited in terms of either their accessibility, content, or both. Similarly, looking at scope, that is, finding examples of who is already telling stories using library materials can help us better understand where and when materials have been utilized previously and where materials have not been able to reach a specific audience. Throughout the summer, Joshua and I will be engaging in a series of interviews internally and externally to achieve this sort of broad understanding. Joshua will rely primarily on attempting to catalog examples of existing uses of library materials and projects, as well as conducting interviews with internal library staff to learn from and compile their knowledge of some library collections that center ethnic and racial minorities to better understand the scope of use. For a better understanding of methodology used by our target audience, I will primarily be speaking to a diverse range of external organizations to establish the sort of content and methods used to gather their divergent collections, especially for those not already using library materials. Through interviewing organizations and understanding how they use and find the content they need, the library can better understand how their collections are accessible or inaccessible, Additionally, I will work to gather resources from the library's collections I believe to be of use to those organizations and help connect them with library expertise. Ultimately, I'm looking forward to gaining clarity on the ways that library materials can become more accessible to the people and organizations we'll be talking with. Both Joshua and I will compile a set of resources, recommendations, and suggestions to the newly emergent CCDI at the end of our internship for future use. Thank you.